Tennessee Life is sponsored by
Mid-South Sewing and Fabric has what you need for your creative adventure. If it's sewing, embroidery, or vinyl projects you need for a home business, Etsy, Pinterest, and your family, we have it. Mid-South Sewing sells Brothers Sewing and Embroidery machines and the latest scan and cut crafting machine. Mid-South Sewing and Fabric in the Gallery Shopping Center.
Tennessee Life is also brought to you by The Flower Pot. For over 100 years, offering flowers and same-day delivery with 2 convenient Knoxville locations. KnoxvilleFlowerPot.com. And by viewers like you. Thank you. Coming up on this edition of Tennessee Life, urban farming is making a big impact in the volunteer state. Beardsly Community Farm has been making a difference in Knoxville for 20 years, providing high-need communities with fresh food and a place to learn the skills to grow their own produce.
So Beardsly Farm opened in 1998 in order to address hunger in this area. The area that we're in is considered a food desert, so we're surrounded by, a lot of convenience stores, but there's not access to fresh fruits and vegetables. So we opened as a way to help people learn how to grow food for themselves and to give people a space here to grow food.
It's hard to beat the taste of fresh eggs from your own chickens, but they will need a place to stay. We found a man who handcrafts backyard coops, but these aren't your grandfather's hen houses.
People crack up, and that's some of the first things they'll say to me. Oh, we love the names of your coops. My grandparents ran a motel, and I basically would go spend the summers there with them, when I was younger. And my wife and I were sitting around talking one day about my grandparents, and then for some reason the names just started popping out. Like Motel 6 would go for Motel Chicks. Holiday Inn would go for Holiday Hen. And Embassy Suites, Embassy Peeps, the Taj Mahal, and then we got the Grand Taj Mahal. So that's how the names came about. I was just thinking about my grandparents one day, and then the names just started flying out.
This Knoxville woman makes the most of her city lot. Jessica Dean grows food and opportunity for community college students at Clay Halo Farm.
So my model was to be a teaching farm, and it's part-time. I teach, I'm a full-time teacher, that's what I do. And so I would do the growing food on the side and invite community college students to come learn with me for the summer and let them take away from it whatever they wanted to.
Those stories next on Tennessee Life.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of Tennessee Life. I'm Vicki Lawson. You don't need to live in the country to grow your own vegetables. Beardsly Farm is Knoxville's first urban and community farm. For 20 years, it has provided fresh produce to local pantries while also teaching Tennesseans how to grow their own food.
Beardsly Farm is especially special to Knoxville because it was Knoxville's first urban and community farm. We really pride ourselves on being able to grow a huge amount and being able to grow a huge variety, as well as being a space for people to come and learn. We hope that people can come to Beardsly, and even if they don't want to garden themselves, they can come here and hang out or go on a tour or see the chickens, feed the chickens. So we have a lot of opportunities for people here, and we hope to just be a space where people can come and talk about food and talk about gardening. Beardsly Farm opened in 1998 in order to address hunger in this area. The area that we're in is considered a food desert, so we're surrounded by a lot of convenience stores, but there's not access to fresh fruits and vegetables in this area. We opened as a way to help people learn how to grow food for themselves and to give people a space here to grow food. Most of the production of Beardsly is located in a public city park. We grow on about 4.5 acres total, and that gets us over 11,000 pounds of food a year, and we donate all of that directly. We're also able to keep 8 hens on the farm, and we have an apiary for bees as well, so we collect honey once or twice a year, in addition to the fresh fruits and vegetables that we grow. We hope to encourage people to eat more fresh produce, fresh fruits and vegetables.
It's good, right? It's juicy. Yeah.
So we teach a lot of cooking classes, and we teach all different age ranges, so from preschool up until elderly. We have all sorts of groups coming out here to learn. And then the other side of Beardsly is the production side. So we grow over 10,000 pounds of food a year and donate all of that to hunger relief organizations.
I found a whole group of them.
We donate to places like CARM and Mobile Meals and the Women's Shelter and Centro Hispano and the YWCA and places like that. Beardsly Farm grows over 100 different varieties of fruits and vegetables. We grow pretty much anything that you can think of that will grow in East Tennessee. So we grow muscadines and pawpaws, and we grow a huge variety of heirloom tomatoes. We have a 1/3 of an acre summer field where we grow zucchini and peppers and eggplants and beans and tomatoes. We rent out about 25 plots here at Beardsly. I say rent, but it's free. As long as they maintain the plot, they can use it all growing season to grow food for their household. We have a sister program called Green Thumb, and they grow plants. They grow about 20,000 tomato and pepper and basil plants and hand them out to low-income housing all over Knoxville. Adam Carrico, who's the director of that program, also maintains about 25 community gardens all around Knoxville.
We give away plenty of food, but the greater good that Beardsly does is the people that just like nick it for a day or two, but then they go home and say, hey, it's not that hard to grow your own food. So there's like a cool community that comes through here, and again, it's similar to the community gardens where like friendships are made.
Ready.
But really, it's the people it's the teach a man to fish philosophy. So like, if we give away 10 to 12,000 pounds of food a year, bravo. But the bigger thing, in my opinion, is the amount of people that say, hey, I could do that too. I want everybody to have at least like a 4x8 garden. I think like the world would be great if every person found just like a little spot. And if you want to do more, do more. But I think everybody should grow 2 or 3 tomatoes, everybody should grow 2 or 3 peppers, and if you like that, grow something in the winter too.
A great day here at Beardsly is anytime we have a group who can just weed a huge area for us. Work days are awesome. We get, people from all over Knoxville coming to help us weed or water or harvest our garden. When people come together and help run the farm, it's an awesome day at Beardsly. When we have field trips coming to Beardsly Community Farm, we often will have them harvest something for a healthy snack. We have a group coming today, and they'll be harvesting raspberries and blackberries, and they're going to put them into a healthy smoothie. Seeing people find out how food is grown and to see them try it fresh off of the vine for the first time is probably my favorite part of working at Beardsly, because it's what led me to farming myself. Tasting fresh produce, it was tasting a fresh tomato right off the vine.
Wait, I'm on one more.
And so when I get to see people discover like, oh, so this is how okra grows, or this is how asparagus grows, and have them try it fresh, it's a wonderful feeling. It's encouraging to see kids and adults realize that they actually do like produce. A lot of times people grow up eating canned food and they think that they don't like beets, or they think that they don't like beans because they've only had it one way, but trying it fresh off of the vine is a lot different, and it's nice to see when people change their minds about food when they've eaten it fresh. I think what makes Beardsly so special is that everywhere you look on the farm, you see something that somebody from this community has built or made or contributed. So there's murals all over the farm that different AmeriCorps members or different artists in Knoxville have created. There's different raised beds that groups have come out and made. There's a new beautiful education center that we have that was designed and built by UT Architecture. Every building, every structure, every garden was started by a different person in Knoxville, and I think it's really cool to look around and think about all the years and all the people who have been here who have helped create and maintain Beardsly as a community farm. Beardsly is Beardsly because of the people in Knoxville.
Later on Tennessee Life, how one professor found a way to combine her love for teaching and growing food. But next, happy chickens lay great eggs. This man can build their new home sweet home.
It seems more and more people are interested in having backyard chickens to get their own fresh eggs. Just ask Keith McCallum, who on a whim built a chicken coop for his father. Now he has a wait list and a full-time business. With names like the Taj Mahal and Motel Chicks, we just had to go check out Smoky Mountain Chicken Coops.
We started out getting some just to have some fresh eggs to eat, and it kind of started from there, which is what happens to a lot of people. You get attached to them, they become more like pets than livestock. But we just, we've always enjoyed having them, and having fresh eggs is nice. I like having chickens that, first of all, produce eggs, and lots of them, like a Rhode Island Red, they're really good producer eggs. And then I also like to have a little variety. We've got some olive eggers now that lay the olive green eggs. We've got some smaller bantams that lay little tiny eggs. So it's just nice to have a little variety. And I never set out and said, hey, I'm going to start a chicken coop building business. That's not what happened. I was in home repair and remodeling, did that for a number of years before I started doing this. Did bathroom remodels, kitchen remodels, stuff like that. Down to the table. So my dad had an old smokehouse that they converted into a chicken coop. The smokehouse was elevated up on stones, which is how people used to build things way back then. And somebody had enclosed it and it became infested with rats. And we were looking for something that we could put the chickens in and be able to move them around the yard while we dealt with the rat problem. And just couldn't really find anything. But what we did find was just poorly built. And I thought, well, I could probably do a little better job of this. And so I wound up building a couple of coops for Dad, and had the idea. I was like, well, I wonder what will happen if I snap a couple of pictures and put them on Craigslist. I had first order in 15 minutes, 3 orders in 30 minutes, and probably 30 by the end of the week. So that's how it kind of got started. We have a waiting list for our coops. If somebody calls and wants to place an order. Right now our turnaround time is approximately 4 to maybe 5 weeks before we would be able to complete your order. Our coops are called chicken tractors, and basically all that means is they're a mobile chicken coop. People like to have the ability to move their coops around. That's why they're on wheels, of course. It helps keep the coop cleaner. It also keeps your chickens in fresh grass where they can eat bugs and grass and roots or what have you. So when we're buying our lumber, I look for knots in the board, because if you have a knot in the wrong place, when you rip this down on the table saw, it could literally just fall in 2 pieces. If we don't see any, then that's what we want to use right here in all our either interior boards or the exterior run boards. We use all screws. There's no nails in our coops. They're rock solid. I mean, you could literally park a car on top of one of the runs and it's not going to collapse. My wife does do all the painting and staining. They do have to look good, because a lot of these coops are winding up in neighborhoods where they have homeowners associations and stuff like that, so they have to have some curb appeal. A lot of people crack up, and that's some of the first things they'll say to me. Oh, we love the names of your coops. My grandparents ran a motel. And I basically would go spend the summers there with them, you know, when I was younger. And my wife and I were sitting around talking one day about my grandparents, and then for some reason the names just started popping out. Like Motel 6 would go for Motel Chicks. Holiday Inn would go for Holiday Hen. And Embassy Suites, Embassy Peeps, the Taj Mahal, and then we got the Grand Taj Mahal. So that's how the names came about. I was just thinking about my grandparents one day, and then the names just started flying out. We tried to build our coops as predator-proof as we possibly can. We put a 1-inch galvanized poultry mesh on the very bottom of the run. That keeps predators from digging in and coming underneath. It doesn't bother the chicken's feet at all. And then we also put spring-loaded eyelatch locks on all of the doors, the access doors to the coop, the run doors. Well, it's been a couple of weeks ago, I had a customer call, and he's actually a repeat customer of mine. He had a pack of coyotes try to get in his coop. He was just going on and on about how thankful he was that we had put these spring-loaded eyelatch locks on here, because he said that was the only thing that kept the coyotes from getting in. They're pretty well contained in there. About really the only thing that I could think of that could maybe get in one would be a bear. But as far as coyotes, dogs, raccoons, possums, skunks, those sort of things, they're not getting in. You know, at first I thought maybe it was just a fad that would kind of come and go, but it doesn't seem to be, fading. There are a lot of people that are, wanting to get into chickens, and it just seems like, there's somebody every day or every week that just says, hey, we'd like to have some chickens. And especially for their kids, there's a lot of kids that get into having chickens. She's a sweetie. People like the ability to walk out in their backyard and open a lid up and pull an egg out. There's just something rewarding about that. We've got coops in 20 states now. People come from all over to get them. It really blows my mind how far someone will drive for a chicken coop. To get a phone call from somebody that's in Louisiana or Texas and say, I've been looking at coops within a 400-mile radius of me, and your coops are the prettiest ones I've seen, and that's a good feeling. So it makes me feel like I'm doing something right.
Drive down Jessica Dean City Street and her house definitely stands out. She calls her lot full of fruits and vegetables her garden. As a professor at Pellissippi State Community College, she wanted to do more than grow and share food. She's also found a way to provide students valuable work experience at Clay Halo Farm.
You drive up the street, and how I tell people they're at my house is to look for the 2 red chairs and the sunflowers and all the big vines. You can't miss it. When I first moved here, the front yard was completely bare. It was stark. There was not a single plant, except for one sage plant that the people before me had put in a little planter right by the front steps. And the first thing I planted was a fig tree that I rescued from a greenhouse that had been abandoned, and it was a little brown stick, and I didn't know if it would live or not, but now it's covered in figs. I think it surprises people that, when they walk by and see this, that anyone would put these type of plants in their front yard. Oh, you can grow squash in your front yard? Yep. You can grow pumpkins? Yep. It's been so taken away from us. The visibility of growing food, it was relegated to the rural areas. It was relegated to really, really large industrial farms that we aren't meant to see. Everything comes packaged on a truck. So the visibility of just growing food and where it comes from, I think that's just what's surprising to people who, like me, even though I lived in rural areas, I had never grown a tomato. I never knew where a sweet potato came from. I'm Jessica Dean, and I started Clay Halo Farm here in Knoxville, Tennessee in 2013. Clay Hollow Farm is about a mile from downtown, so it's an urban neighborhood. It's a historic neighborhood. We're on the National Register of Historic Places. A lot of old homes in here, and our mission is to heal ourselves, the land, and others by growing food and employing community college students. I started tutoring writing at Pellissippi, and when I finished my graduate degree in English, I started teaching English or writing classes. So I started to see, the gaps in the system. One of the gaps I saw was a need for access to fresh food and even access to food on our campus. We don't have a cafeteria. Students would have to go to the convenience store or eat out of the snack machines. And I started thinking about that, and also just food literacy. As we were studying food in my classroom, I'm seeing that a lot of folks don't know where their food comes from.
I saw a bunch of vegetables and I'm like, I don't know what this is. I was like, what is snap peas? I didn't know onions grew in the ground like that. I didn't know they were a root vegetable, and kale, why does it look like this, And I'm just I'm shocked and I'm surprised, but I'm also excited at the same time. This was my first time ever, experiencing what gardening was, what farming was.
I love this pretty yellow.
And I just really wanted to be on the other side of that and just see what it's like to grow food. And I found that it was an emotional patience for me, very humbling experience, and I really loved it. One thing that got me is when I first harvested strawberries. They were so red and they were so good. I took a bite out of them and they were so good. I loved them. I was like, oh my God, it's strawberries. I couldn't eat them all because, she sold to people as well in the community. But that was one of my highlights. Definitely is when I harvested strawberries on that second day.
I started the farm knowing that I wanted to be able to hire and pay community college students to work here and learn about growing food. So my model was to be a teaching farm, and it's part-time. I teach, I'm a full-time teacher, that's what I do. So I would do the growing food on the side and invite community college students to come learn with me for the summer and let them take away from it whatever they wanted to. The basic is I have a CSAA. So instead of just community-supported agriculture, I did a community-supported agricultural apprenticeship. And what that meant was when people bought shares of my vegetables, they knew that the money was going to pay a college apprentice for the summer.
When I first planted my first zucchini seed, I thought all my plants were gonna die. When I saw that zucchini first sprout, I was jumping up and down. I was so happy. Jessica has a picture where I was just happy because I didn't think any of my plants were gonna survive. I was like, this is gonna be a tragedy. And it's not gonna make it. So definitely that was also another good experience. And then when I started getting fruit from the zucchini plant and I cooked my first zucchini that I had grew, it's just amazing. When I was at Pellissippi State, I was studying social work. I did gardening with Jessica for 2 years, and I saw how she did, interact with the community, and I was like, I want to do that as well. So I was like, social work is the logical route to do that. Little did I know that this would shape me so much that I would actually try to make a career in forestry. I picked the concentration in urban forestry because I feel that it's important to do that in an urban setting because there are a lot of more people that you can reach. People in neighborhoods just like this, where we're in food insecurities, food deserts, that don't know a lot about food nutrition or a lot about gardening. And I want to be able to reach those people as well. And those people typically live in urban settings.
I had read a statistic about women being the fastest growing segment of farmers in the US. Women ages 25 to 35, fastest growing segment. I thought that makes a lot of sense. And so I wanted to teach other women in particular and focus on single moms and also women of color.
Are you serious? Yeah. I feel like it's important to reach women, but most importantly, African American women like myself, just because I feel like in neighborhoods where I grew up in, there's not a lot of opportunity to grow. Unless you really seek it out. You have to want to seek it out. But sometimes you have to have a little guidance to do that. So definitely, I want to reach women who were like me growing up, not knowing what they really wanted to do, a little lost, not have really a lot of guidance, not a lot of opportunity to grow. So I want to reach women.
Growing food is not only a lifelong skill that a student can take with them wherever they live. They can have a tomato plant on a porch and that's it. Or they can fill up their yard like mine. Or they can just learn how to cook a little differently or ask questions at the farmer's market. All of those things were skills that anybody can use. And also they could have a meaningful work experience to talk about future employers with. They could have examples of, how do you resolve conflict working in a garden? How did you meet in a problem that you didn't know how to solve? What's the time you were disappointed? How did you adjust in a working environment? All those questions can be answered if you work on a farm for a summer. Seeing that students needed opportunities for meaningful work and internships to put on their resume, and also our community needing access to fresh food, all those things seemed like a very sustainable way and a very natural way to grow food and invite community college students in to grow and learn with me.
This brings back so many memories.
We hope you've enjoyed seeing how great food can be grown in small spaces. So get outside and grow your first plant and see where it goes. I'm Vicki Lawson. See you on the next Tennessee Life.
Tennessee Life is sponsored by
Mid-South Sewing and Fabric has what you need for your creative adventure. If it's sewing, embroidery, or vinyl projects you need for a home business, Etsy, Pinterest, and your family, we have it. Mid-South Sewing sells Brothers Sewing and Embroidery machines and the latest scan and cut crafting machine. Mid-South Sewing and Fabric in the Gallery Shopping Center.
Tennessee Life is also brought to you by The Flower Pot. For over 100 years, offering flowers and same-day delivery with 2 convenient Knoxville locations. KnoxvilleFlowerPot.com. And by viewers like you. Thank you